And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we have a Fox News alert. We begin with corruption and bribery allegations swirling around the president of the United States. That's Joe Biden. So naturally, Biden's now weaponized, politicized DOJ has just indicted his chief political rival, that is Donald Trump, yet again, and on completely bogus charges related to January 6th out of the great venue of Washington, D.C. Let us be very clear at the start here tonight. This is an incredibly weak, baseless, convoluted indictment. It is bizarrely centered around what is clearly protected speech, zero criminal statutes, because there are none that were applicable that are actually written into law. It is based on an obscure law from the Civil War. So let's be even more clear. This indictment is frankly not worth the paper that it's printed on. This is a political persecution through and through. There is a reason that Donald Trump's poll numbers keep going up every single time he goes through yet another attack like this by liberal activist attorneys general. Now, the American people are seeing through all of this, and Joe Biden's so-called Department of Justice is now officially completely out of control. Biden's AG, Merrick Garland, who signed off on this charade, remember, the Department of Justice is part of the executive branch. They have now gone full banana republic. He's not even making any attempt to present even the appearance of fairness. Now, Garland and the other Democrats at the DOJ, they're now trying to jail Joe Biden's chief political opponent, all in the lead up to an election. And they want Donald Trump in jail for the rest of his life, all while protecting the big guy from any and all legitimate and real legal scrutiny. Just look at this timeline. June the 7th, the FBI finally gives Congress that 1023 form that they did not want to hand over. First send it over, eventually redacted. Then you get to see it in a skiff. Finally, thanks to Senator Grassley, we get to see it. Anyway, that documented foreign bribery allegations against Joe and Hunter Biden from a credible source. A credible source because the FBI paid this informant in the past hundreds of thousands of dollars. The very next day, June the 8th, the DOJ's Jack Smith indicts Trump in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. Okay, well, it's just mere coincidence. Then on July 26th, Hunter Biden's unprecedented sweetheart deal with the DOJ was introduced in court and then rejected by a federal judge. Well, the very next day, July 27th, Jack Smith adds even more charges in the Trump Mar-a-Lago document case. I guess pretty weird. Another odd coincidence, right? But there's more. On July 31st, that would be yesterday, Hunter Biden's former business partner testifies before Congress that Joe Biden was on over 20 calls and in-person meetings with his son Hunter's foreign business partners. Now, that, of course, contradicted Joe Biden's big lie as both a candidate and as president that he never one time ever talked to his son Hunter or his brother, or anyone for that matter, quote unquote, about their foreign business dealings. This includes Burisma executives who, according to Devon Archer yesterday, pressured Hunter's connections in D.C. Why? They wanted to remove that Ukrainian prosecutor that Joe Biden ultimately forced out in less than 6 hours, leveraging $1 billion of your tax dollars to do it. And by the way, the net result of that, he helped enrich his son and family in the process. And here we are, the very next day. Another coincidence, which is today, August the 1st, and Jack Smith indicts Trump once again over the riot on January 6th, although not really about the riot. Now, despite Trump's direction to peacefully, and many of you will now peacefully, patriotically march to the Capitol so your voices will be heard, by the way, which is not in the indictment. The certification of the 2020 election was delayed by a few hours because of the riots. So now Biden's DOJ wants Donald Trump to spend the rest of his life in prison. And by the way, the DOJ, they're not even charging Trump with causing the riots. They completely ignored the criminal referrals from the pointless January 6th committee. And that committee, of course, ignored the most important discovery that they had, and that was that our intelligence community had actionable intelligence in the weeks and days leading up to January 6th, and they failed to act. You would think they would want to prevent something like that from ever happening again and taking steps to prevent it from happening again. But they ignored that part because their full focus was to bludgeon Donald Trump at all costs. Instead, they indicted Trump on 3 counts of conspiracy and, of course, 1 obstruction charge over allegations that Trump worked behind the scenes to obstruct an official proceeding that went on as planned, albeit a few hours late. And apparently questioning election results, well, that would be freedom of speech, and I guess that is now, as of today, illegal in our country. Unless, of course, you're Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton or Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries or Stacey Abrams in Georgia or any other Democratic candidate who objects to election results every time a Republican wins. Now, of course, Donald Trump will, in this case, be tried in Washington, D.C., where pretty much nobody voted for him, and almost everyone hates his guts. Does that sound like a fair venue? Well, in fact, Washington, D.C., we went back and looked. Only 5.4% of the city actually voted for Donald Trump. In New York City, where Donald Trump is also facing bogus charges, well, a whopping 12% voted for him there. If you look at Fulton County, Georgia, and I'm sure that's coming next, where Trump will likely face charges, he received a whopping 26% of the vote. So do you really think that Donald Trump can get a fair trial in New York City, in Washington, D.C., in Fulton County, Georgia, to have a real jury of his peers? I don't think so. Now, of course, the DOJ's Jack Smith doesn't seem to care. And according to former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, who Smith got a guilty plea with, not a guilty plea, a guilty verdict on, Smith would rather win than get it wrong. Those are McDonnell's words. Remember, Jack Smith ruined Bob McDonnell's life, causing him to go bankrupt over his legal fees before the case against McDonnell was overturned by a unanimous Supreme Court decision. That would be 9-0. That's the justice system McDonnell, Trump, and other Republicans, sadly, in this country, are forced to endure in these times. But if you're Joe Biden, you can allegedly sell access to the highest levels of the U.S. government, leverage taxpayer dollars, and, by the way, sell access to people from China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania, Mexico, and, over a dozen countries. No consequences will you face at all. For a few $million, oligarchs from around the world, they get direct access to the big guy. And that included phone calls and meetings facilitated by his son, Hunter. Now, was Hunter the brand? Hunter, what, the crack smoker, the crack addict? Hunter, the guy that liked prostitutes? Or was the brand that they talked about, or Devon Archer talked about, Joe Biden? Of course, protection was also a part of that package. Burisma executives, as you recall from yesterday, used the Biden name to shield, to prevent investigations. They later pressured Hunter to call D.C. to help get a pesky Ukrainian prosecutor fired. And according to the bribery allegations from that FBI source, Burisma executives believed the price was steep. They didn't want to pay it, but they had to pay the Bidens $5 million from one Biden, $5 billion to another Biden, $10 million in total. And it will take 10 years for people to discover how they made the payment. It really makes you wonder why Hunter reportedly encouraged Devon Archer to buy a burner phone ahead of their appointment to that Burisma board. And 3 days before a meeting at the Obama White House with then Vice President Biden, well, here's what Hunter allegedly emailed his business partner, quote, buy a cell phone from a 7-Eleven or a CVS tomorrow, and I'll do the same. So why did they need a burner phone ahead of a meeting at the White House where Joe Biden would be? And by the way, it's not only Burisma. Then, of course, there's the WhatsApp message. I am sitting here with my father. And why haven't you followed through on your commitment? That, of course, was with the Chinese business partner, also in the energy business. Remember, Hunter had no expertise in energy. But remember, they paid millions for the Biden brand within a week, including the one CP-linked businessman nicknamed the Super Chairman. But don't take my word for it. According to another email from Hunter, quote, your question, why does Super Chair love me so much? It's easily answered. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with my last name. And I bring along very handsome, Aryan, godlike men wherever I go. Okay. Now, just imagine if that email was from Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump or Ivanka Trump. You think the media would care? You think Democrats would care? You think the DOJ, this DOJ, would take note of that? I think they would. Apparently, if your last name is Biden, even Clinton, but if your last name is Biden, you can do anything you want. You can allegedly sell access to the highest government office in the land. You can skip out on taxes. You can engage with prostitutes. You can smoke crack regularly. You can lie on your gun application. That gun can be tossed in a dumpster across the street from a high school. And if you're Joe Biden or have the last name Biden, you can participate in your son's shady international business scheme, then lie about it. And no one bats an eyelash. Nobody in the media mob, the ones that lied to you about Trump-Russia collusion for 3 years, and nobody in the Democratic Party. At the same time, the weaponized DOJ that we're living under and the politicized FBI will help sweep everything under the rug for the Bidens. So now we're left with one basic fundamental question. Who is going to hold the DOJ and the FBI accountable? Not the rank and file. I want to be clear. They're putting their lives on the line to protect us every day. I'm talking about the upper echelon. Are we now living in America where equal justice is dead? The equal application of our laws is a thing of the past, that we're the shredding of our Constitution. We're witnessing this in real time in front of our own eyes. Is it past time to impeach Merrick Garland? Is it time to flush out all of the Democratic activists out of the bureaucracy and the deep state?